Holosky podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Steven.
And Kyle.
And it's Monday, Holocult. You know what that means. We're here to hang out with you, kickstart your work week. And if you're here, you've chosen us to do just that. And for that, we are forever thankful and grateful.
It's a smart choice.
It is a smart choice for smart people.
Definitely smart people.
If you're new here, welcome. If you don't want to hear us go through a bunch of show jargon, you can skip to about 6 minutes when we usually get into the crux of the show. But if you want to listen to us talk, that's cool. You can do that. If you've been here for a while, hi weirdo, welcome back. Yeah, we're just gonna get through it. So check us out all our social medias: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Discord, Reddit. Search up the Holosky podcast and you'll find us there. Come join the community. Be part of the cult. It's a good time. Holocult is a good place. It's a good place to hang out with friends, talk about weird stuff, maybe drink a little weird punch here and there. Maybe not that.
Welcome to the family.
Welcome to the family. What do you got for us today, Kyle? I guess we could let them know.
It's kind of like the journey of Steve and I through cooler dudes.
Which wouldn't take much.
Nah.
If we're being honest with ourselves.
There are some interesting parallels. But it's called The Paranormal Ranger. It's a book I've been reading about a man who is a Navajo Ranger, and him and his partner essentially turn into Mulder and Scully.
God, that'd be awesome.
Right? That's really fucking cool story.
That needs to be our future.
I'm with it.
We need to go from paranormal journalists to paranormal investigators. It's just the way things evolve.
Yeah.
But we're going to get to that.
Destiny.
Yeah, it is destiny. Yeah. If you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to send to us, maybe one to investigate, Kyle's going to tell you how to do it.
It's easy peasy. holoskypodcast@gmail.com. It's in the show notes. If by chance you're at the website, you can also do it there, which through 300 episodes, we've pretty much religiously forgotten to mention. But now we're here. We're always trying to do better. You know, that's the only way you go from a noob to a pro is progress. So allow us that. Yeah, you just send it over to us, write it out, record it, whatever you want to do. Then we put it in the patented filing system, get it on a show, and you're famous. It's hopefully rich.
It's a one step to stardom.
It is. It is the only step to stardom.
Just how it works.
Yeah.
If you'd like to support the show, plenty of ways. Try that again. If you'd like to support the show, there's plenty of ways you can do it. Over at the Patreon for $7 a month, you can get all kinds of goodies. A bunch of extra episodes, over 50 now. You can get our regular episodes ad-free because you all voice how you don't like the ads. Not all of you. A very select minority talk about it, but I like to point that out. You can also get the episodes early, which is kind of nice. Then you can discuss it over at the Discord before everyone else is privy to it. Also, you get some casket breast jams, some merch updates before everybody else. Just all kinds of good goodies over there. Speaking of merch, holoskypodcast.com. Got a store over there. Got shirts, hats, beanies, stickers, all kinds of good stuff. Rolling through some backstock before we restock that up for you all. Best thing you can do, word of mouth. It's free. Post us on socials, share the shows, all that good stuff. Helps us out. Every little bit helps. Any ears we can fall on helps push the show. We appreciate everybody out there putting the work in, throwing our names in the hat. Had some other shows reach out to us, wanting to do some collabs. Thanks to you guys throwing our names to them. Going to get our schedule set up and hook that up sooner, hopefully, than later. Yeah, you can also go to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating and review. And when I find them, I'll gladly shout you out. This week's 5-star rating and review comes to us from our friend, Love Michael NY, New York, I'm assuming. The title is David Lewis. 5 stars.
Right on.
I loved it. Having this added to your pod is great. Well, Michael, David, whichever. Thank you for taking the time to leave us a 5-star. We're glad you liked it. And we're glad that having this little tidbit added to the show is a positive.
Yep.
That's why people should keep leaving us 5-star rating and reviews. Because not only do we like them, so do you.
It's true.
So do you.
And we're probably the realest of the real.
What can we say?
I mean, for noobs, we got it down.
Yeah. All right, Kyle. Let's jam it, bro.
Let's get it. This has been a pretty interesting book so far. I've really enjoyed it. As usual, we leave out a bunch of the book for reading because he talks about his life a lot in the beginning. He also enlightens us on the creation story from the Navajos, which is pretty interesting. And then he talks about his journey into the paranormal. And this book is about Stanley Milford Jr.'s life as a Navajo Ranger. He was also a Ranger Sergeant and the delegated Chief Navajo Ranger.
So no joke of a dude.
This dude did so much through his career. It's honestly impressive. 11 of those years, though, were spent on a covert team investigating UFO reports and paranormal activity, which sounds awesome.
That is so... The fact
so cool
that exists.
It's rad.
How does one put themselves in a position to be chosen for that?
Be awesome.
Fuck.
Yeah, that's definitely not us.
No. Never mind.
Yeah.
I'll just put my resume away.
It was never his intention to go down this road. He just really wanted to be a cop. But generally speaking, this not wanting to go down that road necessarily is maybe what made him be so good at it.
Oh, that makes sense.
You know?
Yeah.
I admire him on his mission because he went into each case with a single intention, and that was only to help people. He was always selfless in his approach to life, which it's beyond admirable. There's literally almost no one like that anymore.
And it's cool that he has like that objective view of like paranormal where it's almost like it doesn't matter if it's real or if it's not real. He's just trying to help.
Yep. That was his main goal.
So that's dope.
And what made him better qualified for this type of thing, and it was unintentional. It just happened the way it happened. He actually grew up in 2 worlds. One of modern time with his mother in Oklahoma, and the other was spent on the Navajo Reservation with his father, where heavy tradition took place.
Oh, that is.
So he got both realities because we talk a lot about natives and their belief system and how much they really believe in all these things. Well, he kind of got 2 different tastes.
Yeah, the dichotomy of like tradition versus the dichotomy of like lore.
Yep.
Which is that's pretty cool to be kind of in the middle of that.
Yeah, he was literally able to look at each case through 2 completely different lenses. Does admit
that's sick.
Yeah. He does admit though that some of his cases still challenge him to this day. He doesn't know where to go with them, which is a lot of paranormal, to be honest with you.
I want those cases.
Yeah.
Like that's awesome.
Yeah. And I'm, as I'm reading the book, I'm already in love with the journey because it is his goal to allow everyone to join him on his venture, which is much how me and Steve view our journey. So I can already applaud and find a parallel in his journey in comparison with ours.
Yeah, he's got his own cult.
Yeah. Stanley goes through a lot of his childhood in this book, which is extremely enlightening. But the part I want to focus on for a minute is his overall upbringing. First off, I want to commend him for his brain and way of thinking, because when he was with his mother in Oklahoma, he went to school and learned the Western ways, essentially, including Christianity. He also heard some people talk shit about his native religion, saying things like it's bad or evil. Stanley more or less took that in stride and didn't believe anything that these uninformed people were speaking on. And I bring that up because to me it shows an evolution of mind, someone who can read between the lines and not follow the crowd, which I think is kind of important in paranormal work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it takes a sound mind to kind of start to venture down these roads.
Yeah.
And once again, I pointing out the specialty of Stanley himself being of a different cut of cloth than probably 98% of people.
It's hard to tune out the negativity.
It is
a lot, as like we are guilty of. Like whenever we do get negative criticism, we immediately poke at it.
Yeah.
Because like it wears on your ego a little bit. It wears on your like work ethic when you're putting all this work into stuff, and there's people just waiting with bated breath to tear it down.
Yeah, but I do feel like Stanley is an extremely genuine person, and I feel like he's one of those special people that if he's in your life, he's probably making a difference by just being himself, and to me that speaks volumes. They're not trying, like going out of their way to be someone special or to make a difference. It's just who they are, and that speaks volumes to me. But you fast forward to the summers when he would spend on the Navajo Reservation. This is where the rest of his cousins his age were, and all of them were heavy in the Navajo belief system. One night, him and his cousins I essentially end up yelling at a skinwalker. Or no, I apologize. One of them yells while they're out that a skinwalker is running toward them, and all the boys scatter. Stanley did as well, but he admits he was mostly just caught up in the excitement of the situation, right? He didn't necessarily believe that a skinwalker was coming. He just believed, or he just got caught up in the moment.
Which, I mean, is easy to do, especially when you're a teenage kid.
Absolutely.
Everybody's freaking out. You're just going to freak out too.
Yeah. Yep. And like I said, he didn't believe like really any of the stories. His Western ways kind of almost blocked him from that part of his heritage, which is unfortunate at the time. He was under the impression that these stories were just ways for his people to forge their belief systems. As we can all imagine, this changes drastically for him in the future. It's funny to read about his beginning paranormal accounts because Stanley tells about how one night his little sister and him were home alone. He saw a faint glow coming from the kitchen, so he gets up to go check it out, and he sees all 4 of the burners on the stove were lit. It's a really old stove. It takes wooden match to light, and he said that the knobs were extremely stiff to turn. So the odds of them just malfunctioning are extremely small. So he spoke to his sister, and she said that she thought she had heard something upstairs. So Stanley, being the man of the house at the time, he grabs the shotgun, goes and starts clearing the house. Room to room, finds nothing. He also tells about how one time a recliner was picked up and slammed down. Regardless, though, he does, and this is why it's kind of funny, he does what most of us do and kind of explain these situations away.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah. Without any actual evidence to make it rational, but somehow we find ways in our brain to make it rational. But things become unavoidable because I don't know how you essentially explain this one away outside of the fact that his sister was lying. One day he's walking through the house, and out of the corner of his eye, he notices a large book in his sister's room. Which, think about that. Think about that situation in particular. You're walking down the hallway or wherever. Literally out of the corner of your eye, you noticed a book. That's strange. Think about the odds of that. So he goes over and begins to inspect it. He picks it up. He's like, man, it weighs like a ton of fucking bricks. And it's old. It's old, well-worn leather with a pentagram on it. Bizarre. Out of the norm.
Yeah.
He opens it.
Sauce.
And he says this bizarre smell comes from it. Like a musty old abandoned house. And it has depictions of strange symbols and writings. So naturally he decides, he's like, what the fuck? How and why does my little sister have a bizarre, ancient, evil book in her room? So he does what any big brother would at that point. He confronts her. She's like, listen, this isn't mine. I have no idea how it got here. And like I said, the book is extremely old. It even had notes in pencil and pen in the margins.
That's kind of cool.
Like it's heavily used, right?
Yeah. Like if you found that book in the recording room here, wouldn't be that far off. Right?
No.
We got some weird books here.
Right.
But if you find it in your adolescent sister's room,
Might be a little worrisome.
especially if she's like, I don't know how I got here.
And the fact that it has like user notes in it makes it even more interesting.
Yeah.
But he takes this book and he burns it page by page.
Dang, he was not
Yeah.
fucking around.
Yeah.
We ain't doing this.
Now, mind you, at the same time, experiencing this situation, he still doesn't consider himself a believer in the strange, even though an ancient tome decides to appear in his house. Not only did it just appear, but it also called to him. Like I pointed out, he was able to walk by his sister's door and notice a strange book just sitting there, which is bizarre.
And if like I low key want to call bullshit on him not believing, why else would you burn the book? If you didn't believe it had any kind of paranormal connotation?
Right.
Like somewhere in his like teenage mind, he had to know, had to think at least there might be some bad juju here.
Well, and to be honest, maybe it was the big brother, coming out and him being like the not believing part. Like I needed to be a big, strong figure.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Being like, I ain't scared of this
Just
shit. I don't believe
it.
in this shit.
Yeah.
But deep down, like you're saying,
We're gonna, instead of just throwing the book away, we're gonna burn it page by
fuck
page.
this thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it almost, it also makes me wonder if this isn't kind of further proof that sometimes evil will set out early in life to attempt to alter someone's fate, keeping them away from a path of righteousness, meaning that evil knows this person is going to be a giant pain in the ass later on in life.
Oh, I didn't think
So
about
it's
that.
trying to
sway him.
intervene from walking this road, whether that be like influencing him to the dark side or maybe making him afraid of the entirety of the situation to keep him out of becoming a paranormal ranger later on.
Yeah, like because that finding that ancient text could have went one of two ways. He could have opened it up, started reading, and got real into it.
Yeah.
Or burn it page by page.
Yeah, I mean, and it could have scared him so much that he just is like, nope, I'm not dealing with this shit. I want no part of it. I'm done.
Wild to think about. That it can like interject itself in your life at points when you don't even really think about it.
I think it's real.
And the actions that you choose at that point kind of dictates like it almost like a fork in the road that you don't even know you're choosing at that point.
Yeah, I think it's real. I think it makes way more sense than people would want to give it credit for.
Yeah, that's weird.
I dig it. But despite all of his, quote unquote science-based believing, one day fate decided to change his mind on everything. It was 1986 and Stanley was about 20 years old. He went to see Maximum Overdrive, baby.
Hell yes.
Which is awesome. Not to mention, he does note in the book, one of the main reasons he wants to go see this movie is that it was a metal soundtrack. It was essentially AC/DC, and that's what drew him to it, because he was a huge rock and heavy metal fan.
My fucking guy.
Which is awesome. After the movie's over, he said it was roughly midnight. Stanley's getting ready to leave, and he sees an elderly man sitting on the bench. Being the person Stanley is, he's like, hey, man. Or no, the man asks him, you wouldn't by chance be headed to Fort Defiance, would you? If so, can I catch a ride? Stanley's like, yeah, dude, of course. Like, I'll definitely give you a ride. You know, this is an elderly man. I'm not just going to let him walk all the way out there. So he's like, yeah. So they get to drive it, and the old man asks to be let out on the side of the road in the middle of fucking nowhere. Stanley does. He's like, or whatever, dude. If this is where you're trying to be dropped off, this is where I'll drop you off. He drops him off. He goes up the road. He turns around to start heading back towards his dad's house. As he's driving, out of the corner of the eye, he sees something moving. And he's halfway expecting it to be a horse. It's definitely not a horse.
Nope. Don't like where this is going.
Yeah. This thing got within 3 feet of his passenger side. It was all white and ran on all fours. It had the body of, as he describes, a greyhound, only much larger. It was running alongside the truck no matter how fast Stanley would drive. At this point, Stanley is fucking petrified, and he's like, all right. So he punches it. He's going 70, and this thing is still running side by side with him.
That's crazy.
Stanley looks over to get a look at what's going on, and he sees a mouthful of long, jagged, gleaming white teeth. He said its eyes were a fiery yellow-orange color. Its lips were stretched into like a malicious grin. And Stanley describes it in a really terrifying way. He said its gaze was intelligent, sinister, hypnotic, and evil. He's like, the message was clear. I could grab you, rip you to pieces, and eat you alive if I so choose. And there would be nothing you could do about it.
That's terrifying.
That's fucking scary as hell.
That's terrifying. And like the fact that these things could exist and are out there and have that capability, and furthermore, the knowledge and intellect to know that and like give off that kind of energy sucks.
Yeah. It's terrifying.
Because like as a human, we normally think we're top of the food chain, right? Like there's shit that can kill us, like a grizzly bear can kill us.
Sure.
Elephant can kill us, but like we're top of the food chain.
Yeah, easy.
Until it comes to these things.
Yeah.
And that's not an easy pill to swallow.
Oh, not at all.
That there are things out of our comprehension and out of our realm of control that can just do whatever the fuck they want.
Yep.
With us.
Yep. So at this point, Stanley doubles down. He sinks down into his seat as far as he can go. He puts the pedal to the floor. He's like, I ain't looking over at this fucking thing. I'm going straight ahead. Eye on the prize, baby. So he does this the entire way to his dad's house. And what's awesome and terrifying is that he gets home, gets inside, tells his dad, and his dad didn't even like hardly blink at it. All he said was, son, you just saw a skinwalker. Just like it's another Sunday afternoon. Yep. No serious, no freaking out. It was just like, yeah, that's what you saw, dude.
That's so wild.
Isn't it?
So wild to me.
But it just goes to show how ingrained into the belief system it is.
Yes. It's awesome.
It is cool. And it's cool that he talks about it, because I know a lot of people won't talk about these things. But I applaud you for getting the information out there and enlightening the rest of us. And I mean that genuinely. But it was then that he realized that all the stories that he had heard from his childhood were at least had the possibility of being real. Which, as you can imagine for him, probably shook things up a little bit.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those life-altering moments.
Yeah.
Like, because there are certain epochs in your life where like your way of thinking changes drastically.
Yep.
It could be a tragedy. It could be any series of events where you have to completely reevaluate everything you have chosen, everything you've done, everything you've thought up to that point in your life.
And this was it for him. And what a kickoff. One of the official kickoffs, anyways. The book was scary as fuck too.
Dude, I couldn't imagine.
But this
70
kickoff,
miles an hour.
dude.
This thing just cruising on all fours, just galloping along like it's nothing.
Yeah. Just looking at you like I could annihilate you.
Oh, yeah. When you hit 30 mile an hour, you're thinking, fuck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When you hit 50, you're thinking this probably isn't real. Then when you hit 70, you're thinking, I'm fucked.
Yep. Yep. 100%. 100%. But in this book, Stanley tells of his journey, becoming a Navajo Ranger. Reading about his accomplishment is honestly, it's truly inspiring. He knew from a little kid that he wanted to be an officer, and he set out and achieved that. And I know this is a paranormal show, but I wanted to take a minute to appreciate his dedication to what he loved, learning everything when it comes to being a Navajo Ranger, and then just his sheer compassion towards all of the people is so humbling to read about. One example of this, just to show how good of a man he was, is when a group of girls from Holland came to Monument Valley on a school trip. A severe windstorm had moved in and started to pelt the kids with sand, which obviously scared them, not to mention hurt them a little bit. So they rounded up all the kids and got them inside for the night, where he was able to sit and tell them stories, which I think this is so fucking rad. He sits down with these kids and starts telling them Navajo stories, which they, as anyone else would be, were fascinated with it. The sense of pride he had telling these girls about about his people, and him realizing his part of a lineage that is so special was absolutely amazing to read about. And I couldn't encourage everyone more to pick this book and hear his journey, because just, I don't know, I just found that story in particular so humbling and genuine that it I don't know, it hit a chord in me.
Yeah, it's like that's the difference between people like that are in those positions. The difference in just having a job and then like actually like being a civil servant. Right?
Yeah, like that's a great way to put that too.
Because he was there genuinely to help.
Yep.
He didn't have to do all that stuff.
Nope.
Not in his job description. He didn't have to like entertain these girls to the point to where they take their mind off of like the storm that's going on outside and stuff. But he chose to do that. He chose to share his insight and his culture. And he knew that by doing that, it would probably calm their nerves as to everything that they just went through with the storm. And like that just speaks volumes to his character.
I absolutely agree. And like I said, this book is so good. It's so good. You should, if you're into this type of shit, you should definitely pick it up and read it, because that's great. But one day, Stanley gets a call to respond to 26 dead sheep. None of this was out of the ordinary on its face, because, like Stanley points out, they've got a ton of livestock in the area, as well as a ton of predators. So not exactly crazy, although the large number probably was a little bit of a red flag. However, this case is a little different. When he gets to the scene, he could feel that this was different. Not to mention, as he approached the kill site, he said that the smell was wretched. Almost like nothing like he'd ever smelt before. He said it was like burnt hair, burning tires, and something dead.
Ooh.
Yeah, just a lot of putrid smells. He said all 26 sheep dead on their sides with no signs of struggle or panic, which for a predator attack is not normal. There should be signs of like a freak out.
Oh yeah, and there should be gore and blood and everything else, especially if there's like, it takes a lot of energy to kill one sheep, I'm assuming, as a predator, but 26, like that's something.
Yep. Each of these sheep had been cut from throat to groin in a very long, precise line. Even the wool on them was cut in a perfectly straight line, which is crazy.
That is weird.
Because to me, that would suggest like a laser or like a heated blade of some kind.
Yeah, at least surgical precision.
Yeah. In most of these cases, and in this instance, no blood was found either. All of their insides were intact and none of the flesh had been eaten at all. Another oddity about this case was the fact that the sheepdogs that slept with the sheep wouldn't go near the corral, nor did they make any noises throughout the night, which is extremely uncommon for their protectors to do.
You hear that in other certain animal mutilation cases where they find the carcasses. Other animals refuse to have anything to do with them. Like the insects won't invade the carcasses. The buzzards won't pick at the bones. Like whatever has happened to them has put off every other living thing to where...
It's weird.
Yeah.
Super weird. And to Stanley as well. You know, he's bewildered by it. And this essentially would be one of his first official, like, kind of out there calls. Of course, looking back on this case, it's exactly what we would come to the conclusion of fucking aliens.
It's always aliens.
Right. Which Stanley also does inevitably end up suggesting as he looks back on the case. But this case let him know that it wouldn't be run-of-the-mill during these Navajo Ranger days. It's not going to all be traffic violations, unlawful timber harvests, or bootleggers. Things were bound to get a lot weirder as he embarks through his life's journey.
Which is what we're here for.
I almost said the exact same thing. Stanley, once again, he's pretty awesome. He pretty much gets to do a little of everything on his law enforcement journey. Like, I'm sure I mentioned it somewhere, but man, he did like weapons training, SWAT stuff, manhunts, like everything, just fucking everything. Cattle stops, you name it, the dude did it, which is crazy and impressive that he learned like almost everything there is to know about law enforcement.
It's awesome that he trained his way through so much law enforcement that he made it to the paranormal.
Also true.
That's sick.
That is sick. Later on, he gets paired up with a man named John Dover. John is also a badass. A few years older than Stanley. I have to say that it's pretty cool reading about these two. Stanley tells about all of John's accomplishments and how he looks up to him, only later to be partnered with him. Then he speaks on their different styles of investigating, and yet they're different, but they complement each other.
Dude, I hope John is a staunch believer in the paranormal.
He is.
Hell yes.
Like that's like this is his dude. Like this is his Mulder or Scully.
Yes.
But it's cool to read about it because he's like, our different styles complemented each other so well, which is kind of like Steve and I, how we always have, not always, but we have a different approach. However, we still complement each other in those ways.
Just works out.
So it's once again, there's a little bit of a parallel there that kind of makes your heart warm when you're reading through this book.
If only we were dope badasses.
True. We're not though, so we can pretend
that parallel is not there.
That no, but I tried finding what was there.
We you know what? We'll take the weird side.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. So one day the Navajo Rangers get a complaint filed against them because two of the Rangers went out they didn't take the woman very serious, which rightly so pissed her off. So she files a complaint. This is what's crazy to me, and I love this. The chief of the Navajo Rangers at the time was fucking pissed. Absolutely livid because they failed this woman, and he took it personally. And honestly, I feel that sentiment. So he laid into the guys, all of the Navajo Rangers, lines them up, lays into them, and he's like, you know what? This incident involving the Bigfoot wasn't taken seriously enough. We get these types of calls from time to time, and we are going to investigate them to the best of our abilities. I don't give a fuck if you don't believe in Bigfoot. It doesn't matter. That's not our job. Our job is to help these people. That's it. We're not here to judge. We're not here to criticize. We're definitely not here to poke fun. We're here to help them and bring them peace of mind. And I'm like, that is the most gangster shit I've ever fucking heard.
Oh yeah, that's again like that's how you anticipate like a law enforcement officer to be, right?
Oh, 100%.
Especially one in like a position of power over other officers. Like if you got somebody doing some fuck shit, call them out.
Yep, I love it.
Do better.
I love it. I love that they just don't care. Like they are just, a lot of these guys are just have that mentality of, I'm here to help you and protect you. That's my fucking job. It doesn't matter what you say is out there. We're here to do a job, and we're going to do it right. That's cool. That's admirable.
That is pretty rad.
I love it. So the chief turns to his two best guys. He assigns Stanley and John, to which once again says something about the two, because Stanley and John were arguably the best rangers of the bunch, and the chief thought extremely highly of them. And I mean that these guys would head, Stanley and John would, like, separately before they get paired up, would head entire like operations. They did SWAT shit, all types of stuff. So these were the dudes. And the fact that the chief was like, all right, boys, I want you two on this says a lot to me. It tells me that the chief probably believes in this shit. And he's like, I'm going to send the best guys I got to investigate this shit.
Yeah. And it was also like a fix it kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
we already fumbled the ball once with this woman and her encounter. You two are the cleaners.
Yeah. And that's why I said these two are also probably the most professional of the bunch as well.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to do the correct job regardless of the scenario.
Yeah.
And if there is evidence to be found, these two are probably going to be the ones to find it and chase it down.
It's awesome.
It is awesome. So Stanley also points out that they were well suited for this because turns out both of them lived a split life of Navajo beliefs and Western beliefs.
Oh, that's sick.
So as they believed in the paranormal, they also didn't believe so much that it would scare them away from it. So the first case they worked officially was this Bigfoot case that the old lady filed the complaint about. These two had basically come up with their own protocols because all of this was like uncharted territory, essentially. Oh, and by the way, John, being assigned to these paranormal cases, he was fucking stoked because he was also a massive X-Files fan. So he's like, dude, we're like the X-Files people now. This is awesome.
I love it.
So you got Metal and X-Files at this point.
They're us.
Which is awesome.
You take us, make us infinitely cooler and infinitely more badass.
Yeah.
And that's it.
This is us. It's awesome. But so as they know they're going to be working these cases, and also at the same time, because obviously these cases it's not like the X-Files where they get them 24/7, but they have to come up with their own protocols and system of operations for these cases because it's not been done.
Yeah, there's no like blueprint for it. There's no standard operating procedure for going out and investigating a Bigfoot sighting.
Yep. They also, one of the main concerns going into it from Stanley and John was, all right, like on a normal case, like on a manhunt case or whatever, protection and safety is key, right? Like we have our firearms to protect us, this, that, and the other. But he acknowledges, he's like, I don't know that my sidearm is going to do a lot to a ghost. I might be up shit creek there. So kind of cool. Also cool that they have the ability to do this. They started going to medicine men and speaking with them about protection from spirits and demons, which is cool.
That is cool.
Like it's awesome that they, and to think about that your local law enforcement is like, yo, dude, we need to go hit up the local medicine dude and get protection from demons because I ain't fucking with that shit.
It makes me low key wonder how many weird calls our local law enforcement gets.
Probably more than we could imagine.
I wish there was somewhere to find those records or something like.
There's probably a way.
Lights in the sky and Bigfoots and shit.
It'd be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Because all them calls are recorded.
Yeah.
So there's actual audio of these calls.
That's so
which
dope.
would be awesome.
Yes.
There you go, somebody who's a dispatcher. There's a podcast right there for you.
Yeah. Send us. I'm particularly local because I'd like to know, but anybody who has worked these things that have gotten some weird shit.
No, I'm it's out there. It's out there. But so with this Bigfoot case, the Bigfoot was reported by an elderly woman. She said that the Bigfoot had snatched up one of her sheep and ran off with it. So Stanley and John set out to investigate. They interviewed the lady and did patrols of the area. They even came back solo for a little while to do entire night recons. Stanley was out there one night on his recon, and as he didn't find anything, he didn't experience things, but he did experience things that may suggest Bigfoot was actually lurking around out there. Because he describes as he's out there kind of doing his night recon, he's like, man, I was just overcome with like this sense of dread. And he's like, I constantly would hear like something walking around and snapping branches and shit. Each time that I would stop and listen, everything would stop. There would be no more noises. He's like, so I just had this ominous fucking feeling. And he's like, they weren't able to find anything concrete during this case, mostly due to because everything was reported with this case much earlier than they had the opportunity to investigate. So a lot of the evidence was gone by then.
Yeah.
And the sheep had walked this area so much that any prints or anything like that in the ground was gone because they were, the sheep are just trampling everything.
The first two nerds dropped the ball.
100%.
The first two investigators really fumbled.
100%. One thing I liked about this, though, was how Stanley said that being assigned to these paranormal cases was destiny, which Steve and I can kind of relate to through Charlie. Even though they didn't find anything on their first run, it seems that within a year or two, you would go roughly 45 minutes north of this location. Over 30 people had reported seeing a large, shaggy-haired, massive biped. So one evening, a mother told her teenage son to go run off the coyotes that were messing with the sheep. They could hear the sheep kind of freaking out down there in the corral. So the boy picks up his BB gun. He's fucking stoked. He's like, oh, yeah, this is going to be awesome. He takes off running down the hill like the wind. He's running so fast that he almost runs right into a large, broad-shouldered, hairy man with canine teeth and smelled like a wet dog. He slides to a stop right in front of this thing, catches it just at the last second, starts sliding. He says he drops his BB gun and he takes off right back up the hill. I'm out of here. Fuck this. Nope. Runs back up to his mom. She calls the police, who laugh her off. Other people in the area called it in as well, reporting the same shit, which didn't matter because the local police didn't give a fuck. However, the woman at this point, and hats off to you, she's determined, so she calls the Navajo Rangers. So, Stanley and John set off to investigate. Once they get there, they assumed it would be kind of an empty bag like the first run. And as they begin talking to the family, Stanley said you could tell the boy was just fucking terrified over the encounter. The kid didn't even want to go back outside after this. After talking with the family, they went out and started searching the area. They instantly find a disturbance that neither of them could attribute to normal animals. And keep in mind, both of these men were proficient in tracking and wildlife in the area. They knew everything in and out. They found clear footprints in the mud that were 14 to 18 inches in length and 5 inches wide, with clearly defined toes. They said that this thing also had a 5-foot stride, and that average humans, their stride is about 2.5 feet. For a real tall person, maybe 3 feet.
This thing was big.
Big. Another oddity was that these footprints were made through bullhead thorns.
I'm about to look up what a bullhead thorn is.
Apparently they're nasty. And there were no signs of injury either. So it was almost like the feet were so tough that the thorns just didn't even make any impact on them at all. Both Stanley and John, like I said, were extremely skilled trackers. They followed the tracks until they just outright disappeared. They were unable to find any outside disturbances, like someone trying to fake the encounter. Are they pretty nasty? Did you find them?
Yeah, they're little like cow trip looking little guys. Ooh, that's stuck in that guy's foot.
Oh, that probably don't feel very good.
No, that would definitely hinder. If you walked all the way through them, that would definitely hinder your walking barefoot. That's for sure.
But the men, so after that, they're unable to find anything to fake the encounter. The men begin interviewing all the neighbors. Plenty of them had sightings of Bigfoot in the area. Now, many of these stories were over the years, though, so it's not all the same encounter. Stanley said one story was that they found a sheep with all of its wool torn. It had all been torn off, all the wool just ripped off its body, which is terrifying.
That's weird.
Even stating that they had to triage some of these reports because there was just so many accounts of it. Already early in the paranormal career, making notes how some of these cases sounded more like shapeshifters than Bigfoot. One person showed them where a massive fist had hit their trailer, leaving a dent with clear knuckle imprints.
That's awesome.
One lady was driving at night and assumed there was a fucking hitchhiker up ahead until she noticed it was covered in hair. It was massive and had no facial features that she'd see, so I'm sure the hair was covering the face. Then a report came in. This one was pretty fucked up. It was from a woman named Brenda Harris. Now, one night she's home alone with the kids because her husband had just left for work around 10:30 or so. Roughly 30 minutes later, after her husband had initially left, she heard a heavy walking on the front porch. She kind of assumed it was a large dog or a mountain lion, which fucking scary.
Yeah, that's mountain lion probably isn't any
Not
better.
Nah, not that cool. She thought this until the doorknob started shaking, like something was trying to open the door.
God, they know how to open doors.
Yeah. Brenda, obviously terrified. However, large set on you, because she gets up, walks over to the door, unlocks the deadbolt.
Nope.
She said as soon as that click from the deadbolt happened, the doorknob stopped. It let go of the doorknob.
What was her plan?
Oh, she unlocked the lower lock on the doorknob.
Nope.
And opens the fucking door.
Nope.
She said on the other side of this door, like taking the whole frame up, was a tall, black-haired creature staring right back at her.
Nope.
The weird part about it, though, is she reported that it was scraggly, not muscular.
Oh,
so that's kind of weird.
Like a skinny guy.
Yeah.
Except massive, because it took up the whole door frame.
Maybe it was just that it was framed in it's just the height of the door frame. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean you can have like broad shoulders and still be skinny and shit.
Also true. So maybe it was like a what would you call that? Like a starving Bigfoot or something.
Yeah.
Anyways, weird description, but as soon as this happened, the creature takes off running to the west. Brenda instantly, she's like, well, fuck this, slams the door, locks it all back up.
Finally, wisest decision you
Right.
made, Brenda.
Then she goes around and shuts all the windows and locks them too, which ended up being the smart thing to do, because about 30 minutes later, it came back and started on the door again. This kept up all night long until the sun finally started to peek through. Once daylight came, the family goes outside and starts to investigate, and they found a large footprint right outside the daughter's bedroom. Stanley confirmed that the size of the footprint matched the size they had initially found in the area. Now, Brenda, I have to say you're of a different breed, because hats off to you, because she didn't cower down either. She doubles down, goes out, buys trail cams, and she's like, I'm capturing this fucking thing. Didn't disappoint either. On her footage, she gets a small Bigfoot, which just appears out of nowhere. Boop.
Terrifying.
This is how it's described. It's described as if it shot up from the ground. As this thing shoots up, it then runs to the west, which is the exact same direction that the one on the front porch took off to. Brenda then goes on the hunt. She hears that the neighbors had experiences as well. So she starts setting up cameras at the neighbors' houses.
She's doing her own damn investigating.
Dude, she's going hard in the paint. She ends up capturing some silhouettes of something that matches the description that the neighbors had been reporting. Tall and shaggy, standing right outside their horse corral, which their report was that their horse corral one night just got shredded. Like it ripped metal apart like it was nothing. So Stanley and John set up a 3-day investigation in the area. They brought in other Navajo Rangers, some of which had SWAT experience. They brought weapons and all types of equipment like night vision scopes, cameras, even brought in a professional videographer to help with the situation. During their stakeout, they kept finding more and more tracks, leading them to believe that as Bigfoot is actively in the area, that these guys are out patrolling, because they're patrolling the valley at night. Now, one night they were walking down a path that they had been using that was running next to the San Juan River. They come to a point where a large log, roughly 10 foot long and 3 feet in diameter, which is a heavy son of a bitch.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they come into this blocking. And like I said, they had been using this trail, and that had never been there.
It was a warning sign is what that was.
This thing had been picked up and laid across the path, clearly making a statement of don't fucking come any closer. Mm-hmm. They even found markings in the soil that suggested it had been recently picked up and moved, Plus, it was far enough away from the river that it couldn't have been from the river coming up and moving the tree into the location. All of this told Stanley that this thing knew they were out there looking for him, and it was taking measures to impede them. So not only is this thing large and extremely strong, but it's highly intelligent.
And not scared.
Not scared at all.
Which makes it all the more terrifying.
Ugh. Now, as the men move forward, he's like, we were in that, we knew something was in the valley. We knew it. We were finding tracks. Then you have this. He's like, so we're out there moving like shadows, armed to the teeth, weapons at the ready. And out of fucking nowhere, we start hearing ape-like calls. And he's like, it's like the ones you'd hear on Discovery Channel or some shit.
It'd make your blood just turn to ice.
Dude. The men actually end up finding a long tuft of hair that was in a barbed wire fence. They take this, they send it off for DNA. It comes back as unknown carnivore. And he's like, that, to me, that dumbfounded me because that database has every known animal in it.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're getting unknown is crazy to me.
Yeah.
He said, in the end of this investigation, Bigfoot remained at large. They took all their findings, moved forward. He's like, nothing could really be done because every paranormal case that was worked was kept under wraps. And according to Stanley, it was to keep every party's anonymity. However, I question this explanation. Not as a dig to Stanley and John, because I truly feel like these men were out there doing great work. However, I feel there may be more of a reason as to why there's anonymity, quote unquote.
I feel like that's what they were fed.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
This is why we got to keep this under wraps, boys.
That's what I'm thinking.
It's the safety of all you guys.
That's what I'm thinking.
Not you're literally out here tracking down a Bigfoot.
Yeah. And that'll be the end of part 1 for us. There's definitely gonna be a part 2. I think there's UFO encounters to come, witchy stuff, all types of shit to really get into, which I'm extremely excited to hear more from Stanley and John's perspective.
Yeah, that's dope. That is dope.
Yeah, and I just love the dedication to it. I think it's fucking awesome.
I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, why in the hell would the Bigfoot go back? He's already been scared off once, but if he was super skinny, he obviously was hungry.
I mean, he probably just wanted a sandwich.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, I love it though. I love that they have cataloged and like actually now written down their encounters from all this time. Because I feel like stuff like that is just worth its weight in gold, and it gets lost.
Yeah.
Every time someone is too embarrassed or afraid to come forward.
Well, and with the Navajo people, with a lot of Native people, they don't tend to talk about these things very openly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that too. So I can applaud Stanley and like I said, getting that information out there. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It is dope.
I'm all in on the book. I'm excited for it, and I couldn't imagine being out there, like on a fucking Bigfoot manhunt, and then you just start hearing it call, like hearing the whoops and the howls and shit.
Even like being armed to the teeth.
Yeah,
when you start hearing that, like you're out of your element.
Yeah,
at that point, I don't care. There's no amount of preparation you can have to be ready for that.
No, Stanley, like he flat out said, he's like, I was fucking terrified, but all the training and stuff in me, like I pushed forward still.
Yeah,
even though that fear was still there.
There's a reason he's like the best at what he does.
Yeah,
and it's probably like has a lot to do with how he handles those encounters.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I couldn't imagine like you were describing, like being out there, knowing that something's presence has been here. But then something's there.
Oh shit!
Yeah, it's hitting the fan now, fellas.
Oh, I love it, dude. I love it.
I can't wait. That's dope. Yeah, that'll wrap it up for today, Hollow Cult. Thanks for hanging out with us on this wonderful Monday. Hope everybody has a good work week. You know, keep on keeping on out there. Be sure to tune in next week for part 2, Paranormal Ranger encounters. Yeah, loving it. So, everybody, have a good week again. And until we meet again, stay safe, stay weird, and you know, if you're driving along and something's running on its hands and knees at 70 miles an hour beside you, just keep trucking. Don't bother with it. Just keep trucking.